How do I downgrade Windows 11 to Windows 10? Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. Here's the question that I get. I get it in many different forms. I don't like it. Windows 11, I want to go back to Windows 10. How? The answer to this question is both easy and complicated. It depends on how quickly you make the decision. If you make it quickly enough, piece of cake, it's built in. If you wait a little too long, then things get complicated really quick. Let's switch over to Windows 11 here and I'll show you exactly what you may or may not have available to you. So I'm running Windows 11 here. I'm going to go ahead and fire up the Settings app. And I'm going to scroll down here in the Default System tab down to Recovery. And there you'll see this thing called Go Back. Now, in my case, this option is no longer available on this PC. That's because it's been more than 10 days. In other words, Windows 11 includes a built-in rollback to Windows 10 if two conditions are met. One, this machine was upgraded from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and it was done within the last 10 days. If either of those aren't true, in other words, this was a clean install of Windows 11, had nothing to do with an upgrade, or it's been longer than 10 days since the upgrade happened, this option is not available. As you can see, in my case, it's not available. I can't go back to Windows 10, even though I originally upgraded this particular machine from Windows 10 to Windows 11. So my recommendation is, if you can, make your decision quickly. And I say that because this button, being able to click Go Back, is probably the single easiest thing that you could possibly do. It'll roll back your machine to Windows 10. It should keep all of your applications, all of your data, all the good stuff that you want kept. So what if it's not available to you? What if you can't go back? What if it's been longer than 10 days, which I suspect is the common situation? Well, before we take a look at our options, I want you to do something, and it's very important that you do this now. Back up. And by that I mean take a full system image backup of your machine so that no matter what we do next, as you'll see in a moment, these are going to be pretty significant steps. No matter what we do, no matter what happens, you won't lose any data. And in fact, worst case, you could come back to Windows 11. But the point here is that we want to back up absolutely everything on your machine so that we don't lose anything on your machine. You'll see why. The first option you have available to you, if you've prepared, is to roll back to a backup image you had taken before installing Windows 11. In other words, hopefully you're taking regular image backups. In fact, ideally, you're taking regular image backups of some sort every day. All this rollback really means for you then is that you would boot from your backup software's recovery media and restore a backup image that was taken immediately prior to the upgrade to Windows 11. Boom, your machine's back to that point in time. Now, the reason backing up the Windows 11 machine before you do this rollback is important is because chances are you've changed things. Chances are you've made changes to your data, to your files, to whatever. You'll want to then recover that information from the backup that you made of Windows 11 before you rolled back. That's probably the easiest solution of all. If you don't have the Go Back option available, go back yourself by using your own image backup. What if you don't have a backup? Well, you're going to regret not having a backup, because really the only way to roll back from Windows 11 to Windows 10, if you don't have the Go Back option in Windows Settings and you don't have an image backup that you can go back to, reformat, reinstall Windows 10 from scratch, reinstall all your applications, and then recover your data from the backup image we took of Windows 11 or wherever other convenient place there might be. Yep, that's painful. And that's one of the reasons that I continually harp on backing up, especially before major changes like a Windows upgrade from going from Windows 10 to Windows 11. That's a perfect time to protect yourself from this kind of a scenario. Now, my honest recommendation, especially if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have the go back option in Windows and you don't have a backup that you feel comfortable restoring, give Windows 11 a chance. Keep using Windows 11 if you can stand it at all. And I say that because, well, by definition, it's going to last longer than Windows 10. Windows 10 is going to be around for multiple years still. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to be stuck with something, let's stick with Windows 11 because eventually you're going to be going to it anyway. Hopefully they'll improve it. Hopefully they'll address whatever it is that is causing you to want to go back to Windows 10. But keeping Windows 11, running Windows 11 is your safest long-term solution. But barring that, you have three options. The go back button, if it's available, a backup image of Windows 10 if it's available, and if they're not, reformat and reinstall from scratch. Hope that helps. Hope that gets you a little bit of idea of what you're up against. For updates, for comments, for related links and more, visit askleo.com/143948. I'm Leo Notenboom. This is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.